Our top story, it's a government agency that today dropped the bombshell. India's growth in the financial year ending this March is projected to be just over 5%. That's the lowest in a decade which has seen growth regularly at 8 and 9%. With just about 20 days to go for the budget, the finance minister said efforts are on to revive investment. Many say last year's reforms push was too little, too late. And now with barely a year to go for the elections, the question is, can the government take hard decisions to kickstart the flagging economy, or will it have to look at the political impact of this?
Are the days of 9% growth over?
The sum assured to the GDP.
Today, the government projected growth would plunge to 5%, the lowest in a decade. Courtesy a slowdown in several sectors, India's agriculture output is expected to grow at 1.8% compared to 3.6% in 2011-2012. Manufacturing growth is also expected to drop to 1.9% in this fiscal year. The services sector, which makes up more than half of India's gross domestic product, is forecast to slow down to 6.6% from 8.2% a year ago. Markets too took a dip today. The finance ministry insists, despite below expectation projection, government will continue efforts to revive the economy.
If you look at the data for 2010-2011, until recently they were saying it's 8.4% growth. Then they jacked it up to 9.3 in the most recent revision.
A bit disappointing, but one had thought that the second half would pick up. Probably as more data come in regarding the second half, it could be revised.
But despite the recent push on controversial reforms and assurances today from the government, India Inc.'s growing concern was evident. FICCI President Naina Lal Kidwai said, though this was anticipated, the number is astonishingly low. It is important that we firm up steps to give a thrust to the flagging growth.
It is too little and it is too late because we lost a lot of momentum in the past 3 years.
But with the budget about 20 days away and a general election next year, can the government turn the economy around? Bureau Report, NDTV.
And joining me tonight is a panel, I would say, really of heavyweights, real experts in this subject. I'm joined by Dr. Arvind Virmani. Now, of course, he was former Chief Economic Advisor to the Prime Minister. I'm also joined by Mr. N.K. Singh, Rajya Sabha MP of the Janata Dal United, but we all know him, of course, as also ex-Revenue Secretary. And I'm also joined by Tarun Das, ex-Chief Minister CII, and of course, also somebody who's been part of the PM's Economic Advisory panels. Dr. Virmani, how disappointed are you with these GDP estimates, forecast estimates? We've heard Mr. Rangarajan say he hopes that it will be a bit higher, but it's still bad news.
Well, since October of 2012, my forecast for the growth this year has been 5.5%. So I had a band of about 0.25, and I still expect that the final numbers will be within that band. So in that sense, I am not surprised. Now, what it does do is, again, provide an alert, a flashing red alert to the government that there is still a ways to go before the economy will recover. Even though a start has been made in October to correct some of the things which have been affecting investment, what has been done is not enough. More needs to be done.
Mr. N.K. Singh, we've heard the finance minister say recently in an interview that the red lines have been drawn, that he's going to make sure that the fiscal deficit is controlled to 5.3% of the GDP. In that sense, how has his job been made more difficult with these disappointing estimates coming just weeks before the budget?
Well, I think first and foremost, let me say, Sonia, that I'm really appalled at the very poor quality of projections and growth estimates by economists who are in office. I mean, if you recall, Sonia, in the budget which was presented to Parliament, the expected growth rate this year was 7.6.
Yes.
It was scaled down a little after some time to 7%, then to 6%, and now you're going to end the year by 5%. Now, a scaling down of the budget estimate from 7.6 to 5%, a 2.6% drop in the estimates. I mean, one is beginning to wonder at the quality of economic analysis which goes into budget making. And I think this has some very serious need for rethinking on how proposals and estimates and projections are formulated. Now, regarding how difficult it is going to be for the finance minister, of course, it's going to be difficult because it is perhaps his last regular budget. Next year will be a vote on account. He has the difficulties of managing the populist flavor in terms of electoral politics, but he has a more difficult job of reviving growth in terms of restoring macroeconomic stability, in terms of ensuring that the compression on expenditure is really genuine, at the same time accommodating new forms of expenditure on food security, which I believe is on the anvil. There's also very important credible steps which need to be taken for further reviving of investor sentiment, of major structural reforms, of improving project implementation, of getting stalled legislations off the ground. On the whole, a challenging agenda. We are nowhere on the high noon of growth that India has experienced, but I concede the point that this may not be the winter of despair, because fortunately some corrective action has begun. I may also add that Delhi, Sonia, looks much worse from Delhi than Delhi looks from Davos, where I was there about 10 days ago, because the rest of the world is doing much worse than what we are doing at 5%.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.